Hua Shengdun is a truly extraordinary man. Like the great heroes of old, he rose up with weapon in hand, and like the great Cao Cao and Liu Bei did to old China, he split the New World to carve out his own fief. Yet he did not claim an illegitimate crown. He did not pass it down to his children, and instead established the law of election, where the polity is treated as a common good of the citizen. He also avoided force of arms whenever possible, and upheld virtue and righteousness, unlike many other nations of the world. I once saw his portrait up close. His stature and complexion was sturdy and fair. How could he not be a hero? The Milijian is built on the founding principles of a federal republic, creating a state never before seen by the ancients or our contemporaries. Among all the ancient and modern Westerners, truly Hua Shengdun is the greatest of them all. This comment is made by Xu Jiyu, a 19th century Chinese political philosopher who provided one of the earliest accounts of an Asian describing who he called Hua Shengdun, which is, as many of you might have guessed, is George Washington. As you can see from the flowery language, he surprisingly praises Washington and the Republican system, which is kind of weird, considering the whole thing about Confucianism is about loyalty to the monarch and respect to social hierarchy. Or is it? Well, you see, yes, but also no. According to Confucian philosophy, loyalty to the head of state should not be questioned, but nobody said that said head of state had to be hereditary, did they? Xu Jiyu and many other Confucian scholars in East Asia saw Washington as an elected king, and as kings go, they believed he and the system he established was a much better one at preserving Confucian virtue than the hereditary monarchy, which had a tendency to fall into corruption and decay. There was also surprisingly precedent for this. Apparently, according to legends, the fabled Confucian monarch King Liao had given his crown to King Sun instead of his blood relatives, because King Sun was the most virtuous. This supposed ancient method of succession is called xianyang, which means voluntary succession. Of course, it never worked in real life, because any old chap with ambitions could just call himself virtuous and start a civil war. But that was the ideal. And a foreigner, a Westerner, who actually called himself virtuous and followed through with it, and actually stepped down in favor of a person more virtuous than he was a real ideal in front of Confucian scholars, and which they ever tried to strive forwards, which would later lead to republicanism being ever more present in Confucian societies across Asia.